the KeithAndrewNetWork. This is episode 373. I'm here with Deborah Watson. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, for people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is... Let me do that again, a little tongue-tied. The whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, the sun kind of gets my breath. I just got done eating one, so I'm kind of like,
That's okay.
Alright, let me do it again. So the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. That you should never give up, and you should prove to people you can still amount to something. Never give up and prove people wrong. And also, hashtag break the labels. I should learn how to take a breath so I'm not just rambling on. It's always good to take a breath here and there. But half hour, 45 minutes every time. And starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Deborah Watson. My husband and I live in Branson, Missouri, right in the middle of the heart of the good old USA. We moved here from St. Louis about 7 years ago. We lost his niece to PTSD from childhood trauma. She was 31 years old, decided to take her own life because she lost her battle with drug addiction from a car accident she was in. And she left behind a teenage daughter, and we didn't want to raise her in St. Louis, so we came here. And in the process, we were in the process of building a film production company there in St. Louis. So we put it on the back burner, and we started it again 2 years ago. And our first production we did is called Taneycomo, PTSD Does Not Need to Be the End of a Soldier's Story. And so we're working diligently with nonprofits across the United States to help bring awareness to the fact that our soldiers, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are caught up in this place where they feel like they have no voice and they can't talk about what they're dealing with internally. And so in a way they've become disabled to a certain degree because they had purpose when they were in the military, and now all of a sudden they're outside and they've lost their purpose, they've lost their friends, they're thrown back into a whole nother world that's completely different than what they came from, and they're locked up inside trying to figure it all out again. And so we want them to know that they are not alone, that their burden is our burden, and we stand with them through thick and thin, and we try and plug them in with things that they're interested in, whether it's kayaking, it could be going whitewater rafting, which is definitely not my thing. It could be almost anything. In fact, I came from a meeting this morning where there is a group of veterans that are amputees, and they are actually teaching camps across the United States to children with amputees how to play ball. And they shared this really cool testimony about this 13-year-old boy that thought he was going to camp to learn how to play baseball with one arm. And he ended up learning how to tie his shoe from a veteran who had lost his arm in a motorcycle accident. And he's like, I'm 13 years old, and I don't have to wear slip-on shoes anymore. So because he knows how to tie his shoe now. So thank you for doing what you're doing from your perspective, because you are empowering and inspiring others to think beyond who they are or what their circumstances says they are, and causes them to consider, but what if I could? So I just appreciate what you're doing as you network with us around the globe.
Hey, you help me, I help you, and if it's a possibility, I would love to work with you.
Sounds like a great idea. We'll have to talk more about that.
Now, you bring up a good point about me inspiring people. Now, a lot of people, won't mention names, but a lot of people would criticize my talk show that I'm just talking out of my ass. Or, the truth is, yes, I am doing this for myself because I want to make an example out of myself. But, we live only once. So, it doesn't matter if I become famous, I'm going to give back to the community. saying, yes, now I'm famous and everything. I got what I wanted. Now I'm going to get back to everything that I was saying. See, I'm turning myself into an example. So I know that sounds a little selfish, that you're doing this for yourself, but at the same time you're giving it back. What is your opinion about that? Do you think I sound like a hypocrite, or do you think that it's your life, you do what you want?
Sure. So that is a really good question, because I can totally hear those voices in my head too. Mainly because everybody has a critic out there. In fact, my father was a Baptist preacher out in Kansas, and he told me once, if you have 100% support around you all the time, there's something wrong with you, not with what you're doing. And so when there's critics, bring them on, because that's going to strengthen you and empower you even more to do what you're doing. Because if you're building a platform to be a voice for somebody else, I don't see why that's such a wrong thing to do. And I think people are kind of caught up on the little things when you're doing something that's even more powerful than maybe what they're doing. You know, I don't know why they would criticize it, unless for some reason you're doing something that they wish they could have had the courage to do, and maybe they're a little jealous or envious. I don't know, because I can't read minds. Definitely not my gift or talent at all. But I think it's very important what you're doing, because you're networking people together, and you're saying, I may have a learning disability, but I'm not just going to sit in the corner and do nothing. You know, that would be easy.
No, I agree with you, and I give people credit, you know, who I always said if I was deaf, blind, or in a wheelchair, I'd probably kill myself, because I'm not that strong of a person. But I give 110% of people who have to deal with that on an everyday basis. You know, they're a stronger person than I will ever be. And they're actually the heroes, that, if that makes any sense. I know, if that makes any sense.
Keith, you and I are both in production. You're producing your talk show, your radio show. I know what has to go on behind the scenes, and the fact that you did that, your learning disability, I don't know exactly what it is, but you overcame it, because it's not an easy task to do what you're doing. So kudos.
I appreciate it, and if you want, I can answer that question.
Okay, that would be awesome.
About my learning disability, I'm pretty much like you, only I learn at a slower pace. So
Okay.
You may be a 10, I would be like a 6 or a 7. And I read at a 5th grade level. I learn at a 5th grade level. For an example, if someone said, okay, here's the script, go read it, and if all say, oh, well, you got to read 1, 2, couple pages, you'd be like, no problem. But for me, you would have to sit there and go back and forth on the first and then go to the second. So I eventually will get it, but I'm like a slow Apple computer. If you're patient, I will get the job done. But if you just throw something at me, so I go read it, it's gonna go like that Rush song, Fly By Night.
Yeah.
It's gonna go right over my head, and it's gonna set myself up for failure.
Yeah.
But I'm not really good with the hand-eye coordination. I got better with it as I got older. Not comfortable driving. And, you know, it's just basically, you know, I learn at a slower pace, and a lot of people refer to it as being mentally challenged, mentally disturbed, retarded, mentally disconnected. And I'm not, whatever labels there were, I said, you know what? You can throw labels at me all you want, but I'm going to show you I can still amount to something.
Yes, that's awesome. You know, it's interesting, too, because when my husband and I had an international outreach for 12 years, and we used stage productions to reach out to the kids. And when I felt like I was supposed to cross over into film, it scared me. And I talked to some friends of ours from Los Angeles to see if it was really the direction I was supposed to go or not, or if it was just this big dream, because I have a tendency to be a big dreamer. And the interesting thing is, the one thing that they encourage me to do the most is to write the book, produce the script, and let them walk in tandem with each other. So I did that. I took a 2-year apprenticeship training class with Jerry Jenkins' writership training. And I did my best to try and learn to write novels. And I thought, you know what? I'm not a novel writer. And it's kind of like, okay, I grew up in Kansas. So out there we have wheat fields, corn fields, soybean fields. They're still fields, but they're different types of fields. And I accepted the fact that I can be a playwright and I can write screenplays, but I cannot write novels. And the neat thing about it was when I finally let go of it and accepted me for me, it like opened up a whole nother world. And one of my friends here in Branson said, well, that's because you were writing the wrong kind of books. And I looked at him. Now, here's the cool thing. He has Asperger's disease. And it's not a severe case of it. It's a mild case. He said, you're writing the wrong kind of books. You need to be working on comic books because there's people that learn different ways. You like words and you're good with your words, but you need to have the little pockets with the dialogue. And when he said that, my whole brain just exploded with creativity. And I thought, you know what? It's so true. Because I had a college professor tell me she could write and speak 10 different languages fluently. So I would turn my assignments into her, and she's like, it's a great story, but it's there's not enough description. Yeah. So I would add in more description, and Miss Maliki would say, no, too much description, less description. And I would do it 3 or 4 times, and I finally said, what is it you're looking for from me? And she's like, I'm looking for your best, and I don't think you're giving me your best. And I quit her class because she made me angry. But what she said was so true because I don't think I was giving her my best because it was my freshman year in college and I was having fun. So I really wasn't focused. And so here now 20 years later, I think of that, her telling me, you know, give me your best. And that's all you can do. That's all any of us can do. It's give this world our best because you're right. We only get one shot at it. And it doesn't matter whether we're famous or not, whether we live in a 4,000 square foot home or a 400 square foot home. As long as we're giving our best to the world, you know, we got to leave the rest up to let it happen, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. And now, you did mention before we went on the air, that is a beautiful necklace you have. And
thank you.
And you did mention the reason for it.
Yes. So my friend Tiffany Nation in Chattanooga, Tennessee, she actually made this for me. It's made out of a 5.56 AR gun, you know, the one that everybody's terrified of and they're wanting to ban. Out here in the Midwest, we're not afraid of them. We're more afraid with losing them because, well, we'll just keep it brutally honest. We have people out here that are buying cell phones by the hundreds and burying them in their fields. They are smuggling guns in from other countries and they're being found. So if we lose our gun rights, they don't lose their gun rights because they're buried in their backyards. Yeah. So that being said, she actually takes empty ones and converts them into jewelry. And I asked her if she could do one for our film company that's called Studio 222. It is faith-based because I have a very deep-rooted faith in my life because it's literally what saved my life when I was suicidal several years ago, probably, gosh, nearly 20 years ago. So she put a clock on here so it looks like it's pointing to the time of 222 to help remind me that our days are numbered and we do only have so much time. And then she put a 22 underneath it, kind of being symbolic that we're going to shoot down that number. You know, our veterans don't have to lose hope. You know, I found hope in my faith. There's a guy named Moses Mitchell out in North Carolina. He is a combat wounded veteran. He found his hope in his music. He's an amazing musician. Derek Mueller, he found his hope in his physical strength and being a warrior in the fighting ring. You know, everybody finds hope somewhere, and that's where I found my hope. So I really appreciate Tiffany making this for me because it's not just, I like the steampunk look, so I like the softness and femininity of the lace, but I like that firm, hard grip of the metal because it reminds me that every single one of us, we are warriors. You are a warrior. The bum on the street, down deep inside of him, somewhere, or her, is a warrior. We just have to reach out and find that warring spirit within them and help lift them up out of their circumstance. and help them find life again, because we have that freedom and ability to do that here in America. And if we don't do it, shame on us. So.
Now, you do bring up one point, but if you don't mind me for asking,
sure.
I do want to ask you a hard-hitting question. How come you were suicidal?
So, okay, well,
that's me asking because you brought it up.
Yeah, and it's a very good question. So I'm trying to take the big story and condense it down. So, okay, here's a great way of looking at it. So my husband and I had been married for 9 years, and he was dealing with something internally that I had no clue was even part of his life. And honestly, I was a very mean and cruel person and was cutting him down, calling him lazy, calling him all these things. And God literally took our world and flipped it upside down so I could see straight. But in order for that process to happen, I felt the rejection and the abandonment and all those emotions and feelings that he had buried deep inside of him suddenly became burdens of my own. And in that moment, I thought it would be better to not be here in this world and to go ahead and go home to glory and be with Jesus and get out of here, because this physical, emotional pain that I was sensing seemed too much for me to carry on my own. And that's why I became passionate too, to help our veterans, because I was literally sitting there. He wasn't even home, had no clue, because I became silent about what I was wrestling with. And I'm sitting there with the knife, and I'm like, okay, this is it. You know, it would be better for him to not have to deal with me than to have to live with me. And all of a sudden, there's two steps that helped me. Number one, I heard in my spirit, it's like, you know, what am I going to do to get through this? I heard, forgive him the same way you have been forgiven. I was like, forgive me for what? And I saw that split second, like literally, Keith, it was a split second, all the things I had been doing to my husband without really realizing how cruel I was being. And it humbled me. And then I heard the lyrics to a song. It was sung by a group called For Him. It says, I won't bend and I won't break. I won't water down my faith. I won't cave into a world of desperation. Because what's been, I cannot change. But for tomorrow and for today, I must stay alive for future generations. And that empowered me. So when my husband walked through the door and he saw me sitting there and I was crying like an emotional mess, and he's freaking out thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening to my wife? I was having my biggest meltdown that literally saved my life, because I stared death in its face. I said, no, you're not going to have me. You're not going to have my life. And that's where I found my warring spirit, not just for myself, but also for my husband. And I had to get counseling because I had never been at that place before in my life. And I think anybody that is going through any type of trauma, or has been, and it's 50% of our world, Keith, has gone through a traumatic event, that they can either bury it, they can learn to cope with it, or they can learn to just not deal with it. And by facing it and dealing with it, that's where I found my liberation.
No, absolutely. One question I do have, is someone playing the drums in the background?
Playing the drums?
Yeah, there's like a beat going on in the background.
Nope, I hear our air conditioner and I hear the chair every once in a while.
Maybe
is it
it's
this?
just on my side.
Hang on a second. Is it this?
No, it's just kind of like a dun, dun, dun sound.
Interesting. Hey, maybe it's just the little drummer boy playing my war song.
Probably. With that being said, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, I'm going to pass the show over to you.
Sounds great. Thanks, Keith.
A message for yourself or as a gift for someone else. For personal connections, shout-outs, birthdays, proposals, weddings, and much more. Enter your details about yourself so the celebrity can record a personal video message especially for you, including details such as your name, age, birthday, hobbies, or whatever else you include. As soon as the video has been recorded, you'll get an email with your link so you can share it on social media or download and keep it. Celebrities record videos as and when they can, usually within 2 weeks. But if you want a video for a specific date and it does not look like it will arrive in time, you can cancel it and get an instant refund at the click of a button. There are hundreds of celebrities to choose from, and many more joining every day. Search by category or genre. Buy a gift voucher, get updates and offers, and encourage your favorite celebrities to join so they can connect with fans in a fun and unique way. Raise money for their charities, and much more. So order your video now for yourself.
Welcome back to 373. I'm here with the talented and beautiful Deborah Watson. I just want to say thank you for sticking with us.
It has been my pleasure, Keith.
Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. With the last 16 minutes left of the show, I'm going to pass it over to you. Was there anything you wanted to ask me? Anything you want to promote? Talk about social media? This is your time, after all.
Awesome. Well, Keith, I met you on social media randomly, and I don't really remember how, but I want to hear your story. Like, I know you want to inspire people that even if they have a learning disability, they can aspire to be something more than their circumstance. So what was that driving force within you that said, you know what, enough's enough, this is what I'm going to do, and why did you pick doing a talk show of all things?
All right, let's see. There's a lot of different variations to this story. Why I wanted to become a talk show host. During my sophomore year, I used to sit up against the wall. And the same thing in my freshman year. I was anti-social due to my... Actually, do you want to hear the talk show first, or do you want to hear my disability first? Or does it matter?
Totally doesn't matter to me. You run with it, and we'll follow.
Alright, so let's do the talk show first. I was always anti-social my freshman year. So I had my brother's friends who I sat with at once, and they helped me get through my freshman year because I had someone to talk to. But I was always anti-social because of my learning disability. Some people would say I have poor people skills. Somewhat true. I'm socially awkward, but who isn't? So I used to sit up against the wall, and that continued over to my sophomore year. And this guy, God rest his soul, his name is Mr. Tom Earl, and he came over to me and said, instead of sitting against the wall, why don't you come down to the audio-visual department and make something of yourself?
Wow.
So that was about September. Let's see, actually, no, trying to think. I mean, I can see it, but I was trying to figure out when it was. I think it was November towards December. And I went down, and basically it was a big social hangout. And long story told in my book, how my teacher messed it up. And so basically there was this radio station. And, I did my show here and there. And basically I was doing it to socialize, to build up my confidence. A year later, I said, after running, I was known as the kid who had the video camera glued to the side of my head. So I always ran around the school with the video camera, making crappy videos. They were really bad. But so basically, I realized one day each room had a TV in it. And I said to Mr. Earl, wouldn't it be nice to have, say, a morning show? And he said, that's great. If you want to go do it, but you have to go talk to the supervisors, you have to go talk to the principals. And I'm not the same person who I was then. Now I can't shut up. Then I was very anti-social. I didn't like approaching people. I was shy, I was awkward. So at the same time, there was a group of people who took my idea and did it for themselves. They did the morning show. And I said, screw it. You guys took my idea. We're going to have a competition. They had the TV. I had the radio. I'm going to show you that I can still do my show. So I had the Keith Andrew show, the Keith and Tony show, the Keith and Andrew show, Keith and Sarah and Safina and Megan show, the Extreme Power Hour. And I didn't take it literally because it was high school and I was trying to get out of high school. but I also enjoy myself. But that's how it all started. And fast forward a couple of years, I was sitting with my family, and we were talking. You should go talk to this person. You should go talk to that person. And I was tired of working in retail because I got sick out of it. And I said, "What about me?" And everyone stopped and looked at me and said, "What about you? One, you're not educated. Two, you're not qualified. Three, you never went to college. You don't have a bachelor's. You don't have a BA. You don't have an associate's." And on, all these other excuses. So I said, "Screw it." Actually, I said, "Fuck it." Uncensored. Yeah. I said, "Fuck it. You know what? If that's really what you think of me, I'm going to show you with a disability, I can still amount to something."
And that was your father that said that to you?
Well, it's just basically certain people. No one really in general, but it's just a group of people in my family. And it's just basically, after that, don't ask me why, it seemed like a good idea at the time. I did 72 phone interviews. And I don't like talking on the phone because it's like talking to yourself. So I got people from Amazing Spider-Man, from Dragon Ball Z, Power Rangers, and they said to me, "Oh, Keith, you have this great format. Why aren't you as big or bigger when you portray yourself to be? Why don't you have sponsors helping you?" I said, "Would you like to help me with that?" It's like, no, if you can't do it yourself, it's not meant to be. I hung up, it's like, yeah, thanks a lot, asshole.
Right?
And one guy said to me, same thing, but he said, "Why don't you do it over but a different format?" So thanks to him, I don't remember who it was, but he said do it over, and I did. And thanks to you, actually, before I say thanks to you, originally, if you really want to make me crazy, I originally did over 600 interviews.
Wow.
The problem was I was taking people at their word. Say you didn't sign a permission form. It's like, "Okay, Keith, you want to do the interview? That's fine." Then you would say, "Yeah, my agent said, my publicist said, you're degrading. It's horrible to deal with people like you. You ask a lot of stupid questions. I thought you were a charity case and this would help me with my career." On and on. So I said, before I said screw it, people were saying, "Can you hide my interview? Can you take it down or make an idle threats to me?" So I said, screw it. I took everything down. Okay. I wrote up the permission form. And I went back to everyone, and from 300, it dropped to about 200. So I had to swallow the 100. But now I do the permission form. I introduce myself. I tell you what the show is about. And once you sign it, it's a done deal. You wanted me to edit it, I can edit it. But I'm not taking it down for any reason because there's nothing wrong with it.
That's awesome.
And you fast forward. So now I'm back up to 371, thanks to you. And I should have been doing this from the start, but no one helps me with this. I network myself, I promote myself, I find people myself. It didn't come to a pop in my head until something happened that I should have had a permission form. So I had to do it over, and I said, okay, well, it's a learning experience. I did it over. So that makes it for the third time. Because the first time was the phone, and the second time I had to do it over. So this is the third time. What do they say, third time's the charm?
That's right. Hey, and 3 strikes, you're out, and look, you're still in the game.
Oh, absolutely.
That means you must have hit a home run then, eh?
Maybe. Well, I hope so. But, it's just saying that, for me, like I was saying, it was my disability, it takes me longer. You can find anyone who wants to criticize you, friends, family, whatever. But, if people were helping me, things would be going a lot faster. But people were like, well, if it's not moving, then apparently you're doing something wrong. But there's a quote that says, the faster you get to the top, the faster you're going to come down. So
that's a good word.
No, absolutely. And it just basically shows you, I heard from the sky, it's not the destination where you're going to, it's the experience and the journey that you're on.
Yeah. That's good. You know, one of my favorite music artists, I've got a lot of them, but there's one out there, her name's Nicole Nordeman, and she just released a new album, and the title of it has in there that every mile was worth it. And I thought, every moment in the mile was worth it. And I thought, that's so true. Like, if I could have erased that experience that my husband and I went through, I would still think I have a great life, and yet even with that moment in the miles that we've traveled together, and we've got to travel internationally together, that's something that, like, I'm a Kansas farm girl. That was something that was beyond my wildest imagination, and yet those moments along the road have brought me here to be able to have this interview with you. I mean, especially with a learning disability in such a fast-paced world, and you're in New York, I believe, if that's correct?
I'm near West Point.
Okay, so it's a fast-paced, crazy world that we live in,
yeah.
And a learning disability that slows you down. Honestly, I think you have more to offer us normal people than what anybody gives you credit for, because you are able to experience life at a different pace. That some of us that like to run 90 miles a minute, myself included, you remind us that there is joy, there is simplicity in the slow moments, that if we're driving too fast, we could completely miss them. And I think our moments on the miles of life, we would miss out on an awful lot of really cool stuff and amazing people. So.
No, absolutely. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. About wrapping up our talk show, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction? And after being a guest, how you feel now?
Sure. So honestly, the day before, I was praying, and I said, Lord, because like my life has taken, about 2 weeks ago, my blood pressure was off the charts, and we don't have insurance because I had walked away from my retail job and my security of steady income and insurance. So I didn't have insurance, and my doctor told me, you are a walking heart attack and stroke victim. And so the day before you sent me a message, I said, Lord, I'm okay with slowing down. I'm okay with whatever you give me, but I'm not going to keep this cycle of spinning like a crazy tornado going, because you have something better for me. So whatever it is, I am making myself available to you. And it was that next day you sent me the message. I said, hey, I like talking. I like meeting new people. And honestly, you were a little bit of an answer to a prayer. So.
Yeah, I hope so. Now, wrapping up our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege to have you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Me too, Keith. And I'm honored to be able to give you those names that I shared with you, because those people, in fact, I think I put Tiffany Nation, the one that does the necklaces, in that list. But every single one of those people that I shared with you, I think they are really going to be encouraged by your story and your program and your life. That's going to radically change the world that they live in. So thank you for being willing to step up and be brave and be confident enough to do what you're doing, because it literally is, whether the nation sees it or not. And you know what? If you think about it, Trump is kind of a good smokescreen for you. So that way you can go do your thing. Nobody's really paying attention. But in reality, a lot of people are paying attention because your heart is genuine, it's sincere, it's straightforward, and you're not afraid. And that is what America is really all about. So thank you for being who you are instead of worrying about being somebody you're not.